Hi everyone, welcome to my 2012 Crossroads Senior Project, Behind the Footlights. I thought for my project, instead of playing the violin and performing as I usually do in concerts throughout the year, including with the ME program at Crossroads, I would take you behind the stage and try to explain what goes on before we step out onto the stage as a musician. From the instruments that we play, how and what we practice, to the mentality of preparing for a performance. It is my hope that after you watch this, you will have a slightly better understanding of what we do as musicians and perhaps be inspired to go to a concert yourself. Here is a little tour of my violin case, made by the German company Geva, and I got it for my 10th birthday, and I've been using it since. This is a little pocket for storing my music, and inside I have 2 bows, my violin, and a cleaning cloth for when the rosin gets on the strings from the bow. And I have a softer fabric, and this one is for putting under my chin while I play. This is a damp it indicator, which tells you how humid the air is, because the violin is made out of wood, so sometimes you need to keep like a sponge saturated with water to help maintain the instrument's condition. Inside this pocket I have my shoulder rest, which I attach to the bottom of the violin when I play so that it's easier for me to hold, and a mute. This is an orchestral mute made out of rubber, which attaches to the string here, and when I put it on to the bridge, it stops the vibrations going across the string and onto the violin, and so the sound becomes much softer. And here I have what's called the rosin. It's made from tree sap and hardened, and you rub it across the bow hairs before practicing, and that's what creates the friction between the hair and the string and makes the violin make sound. I always keep at least one pair of extra one set of strings in here. There are all sorts of different brands, as you can see. I change my strings about once a month. Usually I use this Infeld Red. They're all made out of different materials, and some have warmer sounds or brighter sounds than others. This is the violin, the instrument that I spend hours with every day. This particular instrument was made in 1802 in France by the violin maker Francois Pic, modeled after Antonio Stradivarius' violin. He is the best known maker of violins from the 1700s in Italy, in Cremona, and his golden period of violin making from 1700 to 1720 created the model that almost all violins today are still following. I mean, it's just a wooden box, but there are so many different colors and timbres which can be produced from these instruments. A quick overview of the instrument, modeled after a woman's body, with the head, this is the scroll, and the pegs which tune the strings, with the neck, shoulders, and body. This is the fingerboard and the strings, the bridge, tailpiece, and chin rest, and this is a shoulder rest, which not everybody attaches, but which I use. So this past week I spent a week in San Francisco performing concerts, both with orchestra and with piano. Those are called recitals. And I also went around to a couple of public high schools and gave master classes and lectures, and one of the most frequent questions that I got was, how much do you practice a day? And for me the answer is about 2 to 3 hours on weekdays, but I know lots of people who say 7 hours, 8 hours, and most people probably wonder, what do they do during all that time? You know, do they just play the piece over and over again for 8 hours? And so usually the first thing I do when I practice for the day is to start with technique exercises like scales, and arpeggios, double stomps. Where I play 2 strings at once. And I do some shifting exercises, which are for moving the left hand from one position to the other. And this usually takes about half an hour every day. And then there are lots of pieces to practice. And sometimes when you have a concert coming up, you can't cover everything, in one day. So I have to divide and decide which piece I'll practice for that day. And each piece can be practiced in an infinite number of ways. You can practice it slowly or with different bowings, different fingerings, so that your hands become more coordinated and flexible. And then of course you have to work on making it sound musical. And the wonderful thing about performing is that you can do your own performance differently every single time. There's always a live audience. Most of them have never heard the piece before, even if you've performed it 200 times already. And there's excitement and spontaneity for me on my part when I walk out on stage, because I can experiment and do things differently and always see what works and what doesn't. And a lot of it depends actually on the audience. You can sense their reaction and enjoy the chemistry that happens between the performer and the audience in that particular setting, which can't ever be replicated. I'd like to demonstrate with an example of the Izai Ballade. This is a solo violin piece, and for example, the very opening, the word that I think of most is mysterious, but I can play mysterious like this without any vibrato. Vibrato is when I vibrate the hand back and forth so that the tone has a specific timbre. So if I were to play mysterious without vibrato, it's up to you to decide which one you might like over the other. But both, for me, seem mysterious, and I can change it up in the performance. And as long as I do each one convinced that it's the best way there is, then my hope is that the audience feels that. This is the Flint Center, and I will be performing here tonight. This is the second concert, and I got here, it's about an hour and a half before the performance, and this is a 2,500 seat hall, and it's very boomy, at least for now. But since the chairs are all carpet, and with the audience here, it'll probably get a little deader during the performance. So hopefully I haven't bored you to tears with this video. I hope you got a new look at what I do as a performer and a violinist. And I just want everybody to one day experience, even if you're not an avid classical music lover, how alive and spontaneous the air is in a concert hall between the performers, and all of the people who are listening together and sharing that space. Thank you so much for watching, and next time I hope to see you in a concert hall.